it's amazing really how experiential education, interpretive techniques, how they kind of come full circle, right? And you've got this opportunity to connect people to this intrinsic, intangible, right, in a
Hmm.
meaningful way. Whether it's conservation and animals, or you get this little spider and connect it to habitats in Australia, which you're familiar with, or whether it's in your point, I'm guessing donors and people that come from institutions that can support your research, right?
Absolutely. A lot of my work is focused on really finding the right people and understanding their motivation behind things, which was a lot of the interpretation work we were doing. I try to find an emotional connection to an animal or to an idea or something like that and really capture that moment. Really take the donor, the guest, or whoever I'm working with on that journey to where I want to be to really get that connection, get my point across. So I transition. I'm still learning a lot about cancer. It's complicated, but I think all my training, like with zoology and knowing all that kind of background, has really helped me figure out how to best communicate that with whoever I'm talking to. You know.
Again, that's all incredible to me. I didn't really know that you were even doing this type of research at the facility you were at. Uh, he had told me that you had recently moved into that kind of next level of it, where you're a little less interpretive, a little more informative, right? A little more
Mhm.
creative. Uh, how does that feel being on that other side?
It's crazy to take the next step because I was so used to being frontline, interacting with guests all the time, and really taking a step back and working with the donors was a totally different vibe. I'm no longer trying to teach. I'm not working on like communicating like science conservation. It was really more of forming a personal connection and understanding where they're at. That was actually the reason why I got brought on to the fundraising teams. Um, I was one of the better interpreters, one of the better presenters from the education department, and my goals was to move up into management and move up into some of the more higher ranking positions at the aquarium I was at, and kind of talking to a lot of different people behind the scenes. They said, look at the fundraising team. They're always trying to bring more people up and really trying to push the mission forward. So I got in contact with our director over there. I got a great internship with them, and they brought me on to kind of help guide some of the interpretation process because we're always doing tours for donors. We're always interacting with them on some level, and you need that science background. You really need that teaching fundamentals to communicate with them a little bit more. It was
Right.
crazy to see how different my style of tour was from some of my coworkers because they don't necessarily have that science background. And I knew my aquarium like the back of my hand. So I was able to show them anything, anytime, anywhere. And then, of course, with the training from Disney, I was able to like read a donor's face and understand where their interests were. Like I can see someone's face light up and think, oh, I want to talk about that a lot more.
Using it as
Or
an anchor point.
exactly using it as an anchor point. Or trying to figure out if they're not understanding what I'm saying. I think that was one of my biggest takeaways. The fact that I'm able to read someone's emotions a little bit better and read someone's expressions and understand, are they understanding what I'm saying? And taking that to the next step is really helped secure in some great donations for us.
Well, it's really funny you mentioned that, your experience at Disney and how it translated here. I mean, I say all the time that, that was the number one skill that I've learned, right? Was those interpretive techniques. But their big, opening line, I think on every job posting is at Disney, we're storytellers, right? And it feels like
Hmm.
that's what you're doing with your potential donors and people, even if they don't become a donor, if they just become a supporter, right? With hours, whatever it may be, that you're taking them on this story, you're taking them on this narrative about the behind the scenes of what you guys are trying to do, right? You're taking the research from data and making it real world applications, right? Is that kind of where you go?
100%. Whether I'm talking about the latest campaign, whether I'm talking about what they're interested in, I'm able to craft a story and figure out exactly where they want to be taken.
Right.
You know, And a lot of times the donor doesn't even know themselves. I've gone on tours where I've talked about sharks and they're just not interested, but then they see a globe in the corner and then we end up spending half hour talking about that. They didn't even realize we've had it, but they're intrigued. They just want to know more. And it's really capitalizing on that, like that key point of interest, that one tell that a donor has or a guest has, and that's what you really focus on, and they love that stuff.
And it's improv, right? That's so cool.
My background is in psychology, communication, learning, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always called that moment like the spark, where you can kind of see
the spark.
That, yeah, you can immediately see like this is the material that you want to continue with, or you can see that there's the connection point, and that's my personal favorite moment. It's one of those like indescribable feelings for me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That every time they spark, it's like there it is for me too.
I love that moment when you find the spark and then they're eating out of the palm of your hand for the rest of the conversation. Like you can take them anywhere and they will follow you.
Right. So we first crossed paths at Disney for sure. There. How did you get to that point? I don't think this is something I've ever really asked you about. Is what was the origin? What got you into? I mean, obviously you're a people person, right? Most educators have to be a people person on some standpoint. We like to serve, but how did you get to that first jumping off point?
The first jump into Disney?
The first jump into like experiential education as a whole, right? Like, what got you? What was the spark for you that got you? Because your eyes light up, right, when you're just talking about it. So what got you?
Oh, I look at that. I look at these moments like with very fond memories. It was probably back in college. Yeah, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but I was in charge of a tutoring program at Boston University. And the entire point of it was to really just work with after-school programs and work with kids to help them through whatever they needed help with, whether it's socializing, whether it's homework, whether it's just hanging out and being part of the after-school program. That was the program I was in charge of. And I firmly believe that if I was to run a program like this, I needed to be part of it. I need to do something on the ground so I know what the people I'm leading are going through. So I really got a chance to work with kids in an after school setting, and I loved the experience. I loved just the idea of teaching. Then my background was in environmental science. I thought I was going to go into the EPA and do field research, but I hated it. I love people. I need to talk to people. I need to see people. So quarantine's been a little hard so far. And then I was trying to figure out what to do after college, and this internship popped up with Disney that kind of merged together my teaching side and my environmental side. I could just teach people about the environment. Who needs to be in the field saving it? I'm saving it by teaching people about it. You can't want to save something if you don't have a personal connection to it. Yep. Then everything kind of just fell into place from there. I mean, I got the call. I got to meet you, Zach. We got to meet everyone down there, and they really laid the fundamentals for. It sounds cheesy, but they laid the fundamentals for the rest of my career. I couldn't have gotten anywhere if it wasn't for that cheesy little internship with Disney.
Absolutely impactful for sure. And again, like you said, just the network that you create, right? To be able to reach out, almost a decade later, and be able to reconnect, I think is a huge part of the experiential industry, right? Is that there's so many
small community. Really we all know each other. We're all we all travel between institutions. We all know the same things. It's been great. I think one of my favorite parts about it is just watching our Facebook group and seeing all the different threads and all the different opportunities and all the chats that go through. Everyone's coming up with a new idea, and we're not competitive. We want everyone to know.
Right. Yeah, it's supportive and it's innovative. I think you really hit on a key topic there. Is that it's a lot of innovation, which bodes well, I think, for the next generation.
Start and lie. So that's one of the most beautiful things about it. And so all that communication and everything, it brings me back to what you said. Pandemic's been hard, and Zachary and I, the social butterflies that we like to be too, completely can understand that. Yeah, the need to get out and do and talk is such a major thing that fuels, I would imagine, all of us. I feel comfortable saying. But as far as it goes, I know that you're currently working, right? So how has the pandemic actually affected you and the institution that you're working for currently?
I think we've been very fortunate. Cancer research is still something that everyone's thinking about. It's top of mind. And my organization, City of Hope, hasn't changed its position. We're still focused on treating cancer. We're still focused on doing research, and that hasn't changed. Our donors understand that as well. They've actually been a little bit more receptive to talking to us. Usually when someone from development, when fundraising calls, they don't want to speak. They know what we're here for.
Mhm.
But because everyone's been so shut in and people are starved for connection, they've been more willing to talk to us. We're ahead of goal right now. I think we're 20% over where we should be. So donations are up. People are giving. People want to help out.
Yeah.
And any connection we can provide them is another touch point, another way to make people feel belonging.
And really the need for science, right? And the need for advanced research, I think, has become even more prevalent, right? It's something people would always put on the back shelf, but maybe during a global health crisis, it's been an opportunity for you guys to kind of leverage that position, right?
Exactly. And it was important for us to not stray away from that mission.
Mhm.
You don't want to jump on the bandwagon with COVID and wanting to do research into that. We really stuck to our guns, really focused on what we're good at.
Right.
That's such an important topic that you're focused on anyway. So I'm sure it wasn't too huge of a decision. Yeah, we should probably stay what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
So have you seen any changes in your industry? I guess you said you've got more buy-in, but have there been any, we talked about innovations, right? Have there been any changes, any new ideas, any new methods that have popped up over the past year that you've either seen other people do or within your institution where you've been like, oh, light bulb moment, this is something that could kind of change for the better for the future?
I loved seeing how people adapt to an online environment. Of course, we couldn't have any events, we couldn't have any dinners, we couldn't host people at the hospital. So everything's gone online.
Mhm.
I know we're utilizing Twitch now. We've just done a live stream with some of our musical partners to really get the word out a little bit more, do a little bit of fundraising that way. We've done online auctions, we've done online dinners. Just the way that people have adapted has been really cool. I think my favorite example, the aquarium Aquarium of the Pacific, even though I'd left, I still get all their information. They've held a virtual otter dinner. So they sent everyone a live stream of our otters and they were feeding them during this time. But then our development team sent out a gift card for Grubhub or another one of our vendors. So everyone's getting a chance to eat dinner with our otters on the screen all together. So it's really making a virtual experience uniform. Everyone sees the same thing. Everyone gets the same experience. Everyone feels part of that community.
And it's interactive, right? It's this literally this experiential moment happening virtually, which is so exciting to see.
You get the live streams, you get the tweets, you get the text in, and people feel like they're part of that community.
Right. And you said Twitch, right? Like that's such a platform that would have been, a faux pas, right? Like 3 or 4 years ago. But it's
No one was on Twitch 3 years ago. I think it was strictly a gaming thing, and now everyone's embraced it.
right. That's really cool to see. Adapting.
I think a lot of people started to really accept the universal nature of Twitch and just that kind of Swiss Army knife aesthetic that it likes to present. You want to do a random poll and show it live on screen? There it is. You can just so many different things, little interactive objects on the screen and things like that can go a mile into pushing just that next step. Like, yeah, we have to be virtual, but look, it can be its own interesting thing.
Just the way it's set up is totally, it's the best live streaming platform we have right now. They've really carved that market out.
And that's
And
cool,
like you,
big institutions.
And they know it.
and it's different. You interact with Twitch different than you interact with TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat or anything like that. Each one has a different voice, and you have to understand how to utilize it best.
And for you guys, it reaches a whole different demographic of potential donors, I bet, right?
100%. I know that we, City of Hope doesn't utilize it in the same way. Cancer isn't exactly a fun topic to talk about, so we're not on socials as much as we, as some of the other institutions out there. But the aquarium has been all over the place. This is the only way you can get. We're getting keeper chats through live streams. We're getting the live cams on all of our exhibits. It's the easiest way to get information out. We're opening up again, I think, in a week or at the end of March. And the only way to do that is through our social medias.
Right. It's about staying relevant, I think, right? Finding ways to stay relevant, to stay in people's minds. When you're trying to hunt down donations, it's much easier if you've been with them for the past 6 months to a year, rather than if you just kind of disappeared for a year, right?
You have to have an online presence. You have to be doing something. And I think it's a great way to keep people connected. Just the way we are, we're starved for attention. We're starved for that interaction. And if you can get 300 people on a live stream and feel like you're talking to each of them individually, whether it's a donor, whether it's a guest, whether it's a kid who's missing out on their aquarium trip, like that is the connection that everyone needs right now. That's how we keep people interested.
Yeah.
How these places keep going.
Absolutely.
And even moving things online, whether it's like virtual classes. We used to do a critter class, critter crawl. Can't remember the exact name of it at the aquarium. And that's all gone virtual. So people are still able to come in and learn everything about it, just on a different platform.
It's cool.
Do you see that your industry, your particular, the place that you're in right now, continuing to use virtual, or really just the industry as a whole? Maybe not, the City of Hope, but
I think virtual events are here to stay. City of Hope did a really cool event in November called Walk for Hope for breast cancer awareness. And it was traditionally always held on campus. We have like a parking lot area that we had survivors come through and walk around. Very symbolic, very emotional experience.
powerful.
Of course, we couldn't do that this year, but we did a campaign where we had, I think the tagline was "We Still Walk," and we were able to open it up to people across the country, around the world, to take part in this experience from wherever they are. So we had a live stream going of the people at our facility walking, and we really encourage people to share videos or clips or photos of them walking wherever they're at, because it truly does affect everyone, and we all were able to come together in that one moment. I wasn't on campus at the time of the event, just because I'm not medical staff. I'm not usually there. But I was driving around my parents' neighborhood, and I saw signs for this event from someone around who wanted to take part and got a group together going. And I think that is really powerful.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for COVID. We wouldn't have tried to reach out to all these people. But being able to bring together people from around the nation is powerful. And I really hope we don't lose that.
Yeah, the scope of big institutions, small institutions, in a virtual setting, everything's kind of leveled out. It's a level playing field. It's a low barrier of entry, cost, overhead, everything kind of gets leveled out, which is exciting because it gives us more opportunities for people to engage and connect with things they wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity, right?
100%. You can't reach someone in New England if you're in California unless you have that personal connection. But getting the word out, spreading links, anyone can join anytime. It's crazy to see what you can, like, the reach people have if you just put it out there.
Awesome. So inspiring, Joe. It's been great chatting with you, catching up, hearing a little bit about what we're doing with the City of Hope and the research projects there. We'll drop links down below for you all, so we can kind of get the word out there about what you guys are doing. Excited to see where your career trajectory kind of goes from this origin point of experiential education into development. I think it's very inspiring and very enheartening to see those skill sets translating into different sectors, different industries. To me, as like a lifelong experiential educator, it's exciting to see.
It's not this. It's not the traditional teaching experience, but everyone needs to learn. And if you're able to communicate it in an effective way, people will listen to you. You know.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your story. We're looking forward to hearing more, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure catching up.